Welcome everybody here, Brady from BGWX, and we are back for another breakdown of Hurricane Erin, which is a Category 4 monster hurricane, as you can see here on IR satellite, that is continuing to move westward, but also it's now gaining a good amount of latitude, which is good as well. The question is, what will the trade-off between the two be? And that's where we're going to dive in terms of where it's going and how strong this thing is going to get. So without further ado, let's get started here. As we can see, this thing's wobbling away here between eye wall replacement cycle that happened earlier today, meaning on satellite. Basically, if I take a screenshot, that this outer eye wall, we had this inner eye wall that we were talking about, I believe, on stream last night. This inner eye wall fighting away, and then now this outer eye wall, you can see how large it is here on the screen. We'll use yellow. This larger eye wall taking place here. That was faded way more than I thought it would be. How about this? All of these? Really? That's unfortunate. Whatever. The outer eye wall has become dominant, pretty much completed this eye wall replacement cycle, even if there are still concentric eye wall look, and that is taken over, and we are now seeing a stronger hurricane, a stronger hurricane trying to form again. Now, I'm not saying it's not a strong hurricane, just it is going to get stronger again, is my point, likely. Because if we look at the upper level environment here, we drew this out on a tweet as well, but if we take a look here, I drew this out for y'all. But take a look here, this front to the north here, right? High pressure to the north guiding this, but the front to the north here is actually also helping aid the outflow here to the north. So it's actually helps speeding this up faster. Imagine this is like that little walk ramp at the airport versus someone walking regular, right? This is going to help you go even faster, is what this is going to do. It's going to help spin the top even faster here, and you can continue to see, as we look around, the continued supportive outflow around the system. As you can see, the upper level environment here, and take a look, even the way the shape of the front is not just going flat, it's going flat then down. So this is helping to aid and support the outflow, and this is a perfect upper level anticyclone, ULAC we call it, to help support the upper level outflow and spin the top faster. So this is there, and it's under very warm sea surface temperatures as well, 29, 30 degree sea surface temperatures, I do believe. I know we didn't show those too much during this forecasting session of Erin, but I was more focused on the track and stuff with that. We knew it was going to be a good environment for intensification. And this here, again, supports. As Erin starts trekking towards this area here, I think this is where we can start to expect. I think this area today is where we'll see our strongest bout of intensification as it starts getting here. Could be even sooner when the most rapid intensification starts. I just think the peak time frame for the strongest bout of rapid intensification will be about then. But what you can also notice here, as I'll zoom back out a little bit and we look into the overall picture of Erin, here's one thing I'll notice. Have y'all notice this? So I want the last, where it was, there we go. As if you take a look here and notice, this is also, you can help get an idea of the steering currents of what's going on here. Is this, let me just make sure this is mid-level. Yep, I just want to make sure this wasn't low-level water vapor loop, because I want the upper level flow. So here we go. What you'll notice here, this is where this is the area. This is the weakness I notice here. That's exactly where we're forecasting this thing to go. So you right to the middle, that is the area we believe this guy's head. And the question is, could it be a little bit further to the west? I doubt it'd be that far west, but it's not impossible. Yeah, again, I say not impossible. Or it's going to be a little bit further to the north here on this weakness. One thing this won't be is north-northeast yet. This thing is not going to be going north-northeast yet. As you can see, this is where the weakness is here in the upper level flow. Just based on satellite, this is where the system is likely going to trek as well. But I'll notice Still can't rule out a little bit further to the west before maybe this opens up a little bit more to the east side here. So that is what I'm going to be watching as well. And then what you can notice here is this front up here. So eventually, when the system does get to wherever it does, somewhere out here, it is going to steer this thing eventually. Question is, how quickly does this move out, though? The sooner this more moves out, the less influence initially this is going to have to pull Erin northward as well, I should note. So that is one thing we've been keeping an eye on models for days now, but that's what we're going to have to keep an eye on as of right now, because you can see this disturbance here in the Gulf and between the front here associated, now connected to the end of this mid-latitude cyclone up here in the North Atlantic. This is kind of what's steering. This is what's steering our pattern right now. The troughs and ridges, right, is what steers the Atlantic, and right now, this is where I'm going to be watching this thing to go today. I think this is the direction it's going to be heading in. That's the most obvious path for this storm to head in the short term. So we're covering that in the short term. Beyond that, it starts to get a little bit tricky, because look how expansive. This was Recon's. Yes, that is what satellite looks like right now. As you can see, eye is trying to clear out at the moment. We'll see how successful that is. Even after the eye replacement cycle, with a much bigger eye now, it can take a while for that to happen. So, but you see, once the eye does clear out, you see more rapid pressure falls, meaning strengthening. So Recon, we have an upper level mission, I believe, happening right now. I think so. It's an upper level mission. It's, usually when it says unknown. But take a look from the last Recon mission. As you can see, there was a little bit of a more west-northwest track on, this was, I believe, a couple hours ago. Yep, roughly. 2-3 hours ago. But what you can also look how much larger the wind field is on Erin now. This is 3 degrees, north, 5 degrees to the southeast. Look at the size of this hurricane force wind field. Typically, anywhere you see in purple is at least very strong tropical storm force to, if not hurricane force. And anywhere that is lighter purple is definite hurricane force winds. So the hurricane wind field on this thing is expanding mightily. It is very much expanding, and this is the concern. And people have been getting caught up on center tracks, and I'm telling you, that's what gets you in trouble when you start focusing on what the actual impacts are for people. Because I'll take a look here, and one thing I'll have you all notice is, take a look. Let's just use this was just happened to be an example. I don't know if this is exactly what happened. This was the last model I was looking at, probably about an hour ago or something. Look how large the wind field is going to be and expansive. Okay, this may not be verbatim, but this is going to be in a large, expansive wind field where, look at northeastern South Carolina, southeastern North Carolina, and then the Outer Banks is the biggest concern, I would say. Outer Banks, we have to monitoring direct impacts. They have started the notice for evacuations there across the Outer Banks currently, and then we also have to keep an eye up into southeastern Virginia, into potentially Chesapeake Bay area as well, southern Delmarva. I don't know if southern Jersey is really as much of a concern for any tropical storm impacts. I would say the next area after what I noticed, I would say OBX, Outer Banks, by far the most concerned area I have right now. And then after that, I would say we start looking towards eastern tip of Long Island, Nantucket, especially Nantucket more than any of these next places I'm going to name. Martha's Vineyard, there's a Boston accent for you, and farther southeastern New England, and especially Cape Cod in that area. So Block Island, I guess I would include in that area as well. And big surf all along areas regardless. Big surf, big waves. Stay away from the water this weekend. If you do, just dip your feet in if you do really need to go in the ocean. I highly unrecommended to go swimming out far into the ocean this weekend. That will not be wise if you live anywhere along the East Coast. Even some of these strong waves can even get sent more into the Gulf of Mexico as well. So keep an eye for anybody watching from there. But the strongest waves, the strongest wind potential will also be in the East Coast, and focusing places like Outer Banks and Nantucket, Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, places like that. That's where I'm watching, and into the Chesapeake Bay Area as well. So that is where the primary focus for direct impacts will be, I think. This is not verbatim, don't take this. I'm just trying to use an example of how large the wind field with this system is going to be. It's going to be very large. So the problem that I noticed what people were having is they're looking at direct center tracks as if that is exactly only where the impacts happen, and that's just not true at all. That's just not true at all. If I go here, so they look at these, right, these little ensemble plots, and they assume that this is it. This is where the storm's definitely going, and that's the problem I have here is people often there no 18C? There we go. They often assume, oh, this is going to be, a couple hundred miles out to 300 miles offshore. This is not a concern. No, the wind field becomes much more expansive as these head into the mid-latitudes, and especially as these storms start crossing, about 30-35 degrees north, the wind field can often expand out in the North Atlantic into the Northwest Atlantic. So that's something we have to closely monitor, is how large is this wind field actually going to get. I want some more members to get a little bit more of a spread here. I think this better categorizes it. Take a look here, you'll notice, right, there's still a good amount of spread for this area. And if we look at just from 0Z last night, you'll notice, look at the difference. We've been doing it every single night on average, 24 hours apart. We do another shift west, right? Those western outliers on this model run, right, are now basically the western end of the mean at this point. So that is something. So that means if we're looking at it, it means what is the farther west, most west models, that could be what is the consensus tomorrow night if we keep doing what we've been doing for days now. I think I showed the example. I think I showed the example here. If I go into, hopefully I don't show anything incriminating here. But if you take a look here, notice the last 5+ days of GFS runs here. Over 1,000 miles. So I see people mentioning that models have been fantastic with this, or the models have been fine. Guys, 1,000 miles and over 1,000 miles in 5 days is not good. That'd be like a hurricane forecasting to make landfall 5 days out in Miami, and then making landfall in Brownsville, and people being like, "That's fine." That's not fine. That is not good for model guidance, like within a 5-day span. That is not good whatsoever. So I want y'all to continue to keep an eye on what's happening with model guidance, and then in the short term, we have to continue to follow any potential westward movement. Already looks like, just based on the west, that's just a tick west already from that center position that they just had. So if this thing continues to follow, and another one right there, looks like another, just barely west from where that center position they marked for the 5 a.m. advisory was. So if this thing continues to stay and ride the western end, that's when we have to start keeping an eye for potential impacts, because then what's forecasted now to be likely tropical storm conditions based on model guidance could be hurricane force winds in the Outer Banks. That would increase the surge chances as well exponentially for some of those areas. The erosion concern rises, and we start having, much more significant concerns for some of these areas. So again, continue to emphasize, we have to keep a close eye. And then I would be wrong not to mention the fact that we could have some Atlantic Canada impacts as well. As this thing continues to go north and the extratropical transition happens, we have to keep an eye on anybody that lives in Nova Scotia, especially on the southern end of Nova Scotia, the east end, and also Newfoundland as well, because this wind field becomes an extratropical cyclone, expands exponentially. So anybody living there should keep a close eye as well. So that is basically what covers what's going on. Again, expect intensification potentially back into a Category 5 today, if not maybe near at least a strong Cat 4 is what I would expect. And this could be a very dangerous storm for people. We could have life-threatening impacts with this. So anybody that dismissed this as having no U.S. impacts, I hate to break it to you, but I hope not, but it seems like we are trending towards a more likely scenario of having U.S. impacts, as I've been talking about and monitoring for days. So I hope those that were watching have been monitoring and have been doing the necessary steps to hopefully be prepared for what might happen. Not saying this is going to be something, unbearable. It's not going to be like a landfall Category 5. That's not what I'm saying. Is just be prepared, because this is going to be a large storm, and we have to monitor how far west this thing can actually get. It may not be done getting farther west, so let's keep a close eye on that. I appreciate you